Hi folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's 3D World. I can't leave well enough alone. I've got the Ender 3 V2 that I just have to make more mods to. I don't have to. This machine straight out of the box works perfectly fine. Anybody has any questions about that, don't. It works just fine. And you ask, why are you doing all these mods? Why do you make these changes? Well, I like to make things better. This will make it better, and it will make it quieter fan-wise. This thing is not a noisy machine. You can hear one probably in the background humming away right now. I'm trying to actually do recordings between my furnace kicking on and off, just to try to keep the background noise to a minimum. But that's tough to do. It is currently like 4 degrees outside, so the furnace kicks on and off pretty regular right now. No matter how well insulated things are, you're trying to maintain about a 70-degree difference between inside and outside. That takes a little bit of energy. With that being said, we're going to jump in here. I've got some new fans, some 40 by 20s. That I'm going to modify this machine so this print head can have 2 new fans that are going to be just stone cold quiet, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not going to do a decibel reading before and after because we're not talking about decibels that are going to hurt your hearing, so I'm not really worried about that, but it is significantly quieter. And plus, what I'm getting ready to, this is a Pet Fang modification that's on here right now. Let me get around here and show you that. So this is the current modification that we put on here a couple weeks ago. It works great. The fans work good. These are not expensive fans by any stretch of the imagination. They're very inexpensive. We wired it up. They work just fantastic. Does everything I want it to do. But then I found this other design right here. Now I didn't design this. I wish I would have because that's pretty cool. Now this is out of a silky copper print, PLA. We're going to end up putting some of these Noctua 40 by 20 fans on here. These fans don't spin at the same RPMs these do. They spin a lot slower, but they do a lot higher volume by design. And these are also a 24 or 12 volt fan, where these are 24 volt fans. So we're going to have to run these through what is called a buck converter. This is in the package yet. This is a little circuit board that has a little screw that you can adjust the pot here to adjust it from 24 volts down to 12 volts. So the new fans will run like they're supposed to. Anyway, that's what we're going to do today. These 2 fans are coming off and 2 new fans are coming on. Now my understanding here is that my son already did this conversion on his, but he also told me that these 2 holes here, this hole lined up perfectly. This one was not in the right spot for the Ender 3. So what this is the Ender 3 V2 anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull this apart, figure out where this needs to be. I'm going to redesign this particular piece right here, and then we'll print it. I've got one printer set up ready to run it when I'm ready to make this mod, but I'm going to make it so the holes line up so this is a direct bolt on. Right now he's running his with a 1 bolt and a clip, and it holds it just fine, but we're going to make it right. And he told me once I get it redesigned to send him the file because he's going to make one for his as well. So this piece here actually goes back into the back here, would press into that location there, and that would hold this in place so you can have your fan up front. And the other thing I like is this fan comes off at a 45, and it just looks cool. What can I say? Let's go ahead, let's get started on what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do here is remove some of the excess stuff that we don't need on here. I'm going to back you over here. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is take off all the unnecessary stuff. I'm going to go ahead and remove the spool. Just cut that, set that aside. We're going to take the camera off, because we're probably going to be flipping this thing around eventually. Okay, now that we got all that set aside and out of our way, see how close I can get you in here. Okay, as you can see, let's see, I'm trying to get a focus here. As you can see, this is not lining up with this other hole that's right behind here. So I'm going to get a measurement from this hole to that hole so I can redesign this piece to accommodate that bolt pattern that's on here. And it'll make it perfect. Now that I'm looking at this a little closer, this is a 3mm threaded hole, and this is a 3mm threaded hole, and this is a non-threaded hole here. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the threaded hole. I'm going to redesign this because this one's designed, see if I can get this steady for you here. This one's designed to go in here like this. I'm going to design mine to put this lug, let's see here, to put this piece in the same location in relationship to this, but I'm going to put me a hole over here instead to take advantage of the threaded hole that's over here. That way I can use two threaded holes that are easy to access. Boom. So we're going to sketch that out on my piece of paper and my pen here, and we're going to draw it up and design it and build it, because that's what we like to do. Now you guys are going to think this is really crude, but I took just a rough sketch of what was going on here with the original piece and where the hole locations are, and I'm taking everything in relationship to this hole. So when I draw this little I-beam piece here, it's going to be in relationship to this hole, so will these holes. And also I marked where the original bolt is that's on there that holds the one of the wheels rollers on the back of the guide rollers, so I can dodge that bolt, so I can make my part go down and around and up and over and such and such like that. So this is what I start off with is a rough sketch, and then we'll go through now and I'm going to draw it up on the screen using Fusion 360. Alrighty, we have taken this and attached the one fan to the upper one and one fan to the face here. We've got the wires currently just hanging over the back. We've got to connect those yet. They have a connector here to convert these 4-pin to a 2-pin black and red, which is what we need to do for this one. Now these are 12-volt fans, so we're going to have to use what they call a buck voltage reducer or whatever it's called. Anyway, I'll leave the description below. These you can buy like, golly, 6 of them for like 10 or 12 bucks. They're pretty cheap on Amazon. They're going to have a place where you solder in the 2 wires going in and 2 wires going out, positive, negative. And once you got the ones going in, we'll power up the machine, and then we'll adjust this little screw right here until we have a 12-volt output here, and then those 2 wires will go and hook into our fan wires. So that's where we got so far. And my little mount, my modification that I made, works great. This is what it looks like. So that mounted on there like that, and then this is a press fit onto it. So as you can see, this is rock solid. It's not going anywhere. Now we got both my fans mounted, and plus there's a little, like I think it's a 3mm screw here maybe. I think that's all it was, a flathead. I just screwed this onto here because this slid in. I'll show you better from this side. There's a little groove T-piece here that screwed, that just pressed into, and it literally pressed in tight enough this wouldn't even need a screw, but why not? It's got a hole there, we're going to use it. Here we used a bunch of little 3mm screws with nuts on the backside to hold those in place. So they're locked and loaded. I'm excited to get it wired up now. Next thing we're going to do is flip it over, and I'm going to trace where those wires go. So I've taken off my screen over here so I can flip it on its side safely. There we go. We're going to run that up like that. Now I got access. I pulled this panel off the bottom. This panel was in here like this with the fan hooked to it. And it had 1, 2, 3 screws on the bottom, and there's one on top. You have to slide the table back, and there's one on top up here. But that's to remove this. I've got a printed replacement piece. It's going to use I think it's a 90mm fan instead of this little guy. We're going to put a 90 on here. It's going to get nutty. The other piece we're going to replace under here, I think it goes, we'll have to figure it out. I got to pull this off, I believe. This goes up in there, I believe. I think there's another fan under here I want to replace, but I'm not sure if I've got things right or not. We'll see. Because this just looks like a direct replacement for that. This also has the exact same bolt pattern. So maybe it's just this guy we're replacing. But this one, yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, we're going to put this one in. But anyway, I'm learning as we go here, guys. You guys are learning right along with me. So now I want to cut some wires loose here. Like right here, I want to cut that little tie there loose. Hey guys, have you ever started a project and wondered why you did? And you end up feeling like you got in a bit over your head? That's kind of how I was feeling with this for a little while. I think I got it back under control. This is a hot mess I've created here. just to add some cooling fans. It's a little bit of a task, but it's not insurmountable, that's for darn sure. I'm gonna bring you around here to this side and show you some. I got this thing's guts hanging out, and I'm gonna show you what I'm doing in some more detail, and then I'm just gonna do it, and then I'll show you some more detail, and then I'm gonna do some more stuff. I don't know of a better way. I know there's a lot of guys out there that work on these things and play around with them, and they have it all staged and studioed, but my show is about real life and real life drama, so to speak. And if you guys, I know you guys don't know me very well if you're new to this channel. If you've been following me on my other channel, you know I don't appreciate drama at all. But this is my own creation. This isn't a drama amongst people. This is a drama on a machine. But let's just say I'm learning a lot. And I'm going to show you how I approach this and how I'm doing this particular conversion so far. But I got to a stopping point close to midnight last night, and I had to stop because I didn't have one of my parts printed. That is the bottom, I think it's PSU, I think it's called, or something like that, case cover, because it has a little fan here where we're putting a 90 under there. And I'll show you some things I've discovered, and like I said, I didn't have that piece printed to adapt to this, so I started that yesterday afternoon late. Once I discovered I had a missing piece, so it's behind me printing right now on the other printer. It'll be the last piece I put on, obviously, because I'll be having all this buttoned up waiting for that one. But let's look around what I got going on inside here, and as you can see so far, I did have these put on, but I don't have them wired yet. Getting the wiring is the other beast I'm working on right now. Okay, now this is the back side of the machine, on the underside I should say, of the machine. So here's a 90mm fan that I'm going to be putting on the PSU. I think that's saying that right. I think it's PSU. If not, I'll correct it. I'm putting an 80mm fan in place of what was covering this, which is just a little like maybe a 40 by 10 maybe fan that was in there. So these are going to be super quiet fans, but you got to get power to them, and it's also different power. It's got to be reduced power, because the fan that's here and the fan that's up top on your print head, both of those are 24 or 12 volts that I'm putting on there. They were 24, same as this one. So you got to use a buck converter like this to take the power down to 12 volts. Now the other advantage we do have here in the PSU, this was a 12 volt fan here, and this is a 12 volt fan, so there won't be any kind of converter needed there. Just a matter of connecting the wiring, and that one's done. But well, here's what I did, because I had to convert this. Let me see if I can get you down here. This is going to be a kind of tough. So right here we have one of these little buck converters, and I don't know how much detail we'll be able to see here, but right here on top of this is a little screw, and that screw you adjust it up or down to control the voltage. Now the link for these will be in my description below, obviously, but I'm going to show you how I did this. Now I have two wires that went, there's a fan that's up on top of your print head that runs all the time. When the power's on, that fan's running. That's the cooling for the cooling head, or the whatever, the nozzle, cools the nozzle, and that runs all the time. So I trace those wires back to the inside here, and let me see if I can get you right up in here. And they trace back to right here. It's hard to see. There's a black and a white, or black and a red wire, both here. I put new wires in there, extended them, and that's what you see coming off right here, because those wires are going to come into the buck converter and then adjust them down. Now what I've done, I've got to have 3 of these guys. So what I did is I went ahead and just twisted the wire. This probably is, some electronics guys are going to probably have a heyday with me in the comments, but this is how I did it. you got your in negative and your in positive, and then you got your out negative and out positive. So what I did is just took the in, stuck it on there. Then I'm gonna take my voltmeter. I don't know if I'll be able to get this in the shot. I doubt I will. Yeah, I'm gonna have a tough time getting that in the shot. So what I've done, let me give you a little more background on what I did here too. Now I've got the control plugged back in. I've got all these wires ended, but not touching anything. I've got the power supply hooked up. I do not recommend anybody doing this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but this is what I'm doing. So this is by no ways a how to do this video. This is a how I did it video, and so far so good. And so right now, reason I've got this all plugged in is because I'm going to turn this thing on, power it on. You're going to see the screen come up here. I'm going to do that right now. So the screen's going to come up like normal, load like normal. And what that does is that puts power. As you can see, there's a light on this little buck converter now. There's a light on here. You might be able to see my voltage meter here. Looks like there's a shadow, but what I'm going to do is take the positive and negative end here. So positive out, negative out. Whoops. And I don't know if you can see that over there. It's 21.3 volts. Now I'm going to turn this little pot down. Got my little tiny screwdriver here. We're going to back this out like a lefty loosey. You see that voltage coming down. See, right now we're down to 14.9. We're going to take this down to 12. There we got 12 volts. As you can see right there, we got 12 volts. And once we've achieved that, we've got them all dialed. We've got it dialed down to 12 volts. We're ready to finish the install. I'll go ahead and turn the power back off and pull the power off the machine. Now, there may be better ways to do the 12 volts adjustment. Maybe there's some power supplies out there you could hook up to these things and get them down to 12 volts via not using the machine, but this is what I had on hand, so this is how I did it. Now the cool part is this printed case has room for the buck converter to go inside next to the fan, and this is going to hang down. You can see the depth of this. Normally this pan that covered this bottom was flat. This one here is going to protrude quite a ways further, but that's why you have these feet, and this will be in the link in the description below. These feet extenders for the E3 Ender 3 that will go on here, and they got a nice fit. They'll snap onto there like that, and it'll jack this thing up off the table, which will also allow more air movement as well. So I'm going to set you back on the stand here while I finish putting this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire in the one buck converter in here, tuck it away. The other thing I did is for my fans that are up on the print head, I've actually taken advantage of these two holes through here, and I'm running my wires out through those two holes. And what I did is I grouped them. Maybe this will help you on your wiring, maybe it won't. But right now I've got the two black coming off of the, let's see if I can get them fingered out here. I'm trying to do this one-handed. I shouldn't be. Okay. So to keep track of them, I got the two black ones and two red ones coming out of one hole. One set of black is going to the in, and the other is going out up through the original wiring harness to the print head. And that's for the fan that's continuously on. Now for the secondary fan, you've got I've got a black and red coming off of I spliced it in here. off of this plug, and this is the one that turns on after your, like, basically your first layer gets printed, and then the cooling fan kicks on after that. I've got that spliced into there, and on this situation you got a blue and a yellow. The yellow is your hot wire. It says that you can look at it right up here. It shows a positive and negative. Oh, can you see it? I probably can't see that very well, but up under here on your board it says positive and negative. So your positive is yellow and your negative is blue. So I soldered on a black and red wire onto there, but that's also the main reason why I took and brought these out the same hole. The blue and the yellow and this red and black go together versus, and this red and black go together. Anyways, that makes sense. That way I can keep track of it, because I'm getting ready to put this back in place, tidy it all up, and then I'm gonna do the rest of the wiring outside of this case. Now there is enough room to stuff things up in here. If you tape it, fold it over, tape it, you can pack it in there. My son did that on his. I'm opting to do something a little different. I'm going to use these little butt converter housings that I printed up a few days ago. It shows, they're kind of cool. They show the in and out, positive and negative. And I'm going to put these inside here, basically like this. And then I'll screw them together, and then I'll probably take some, I haven't decided yet how cheesy I'm going to go. I may take some Velcro and just Velcro it to the bottom of this case, or I may take some hot glue and just hot glue it to the bottom of the case to hold it out of the way. They do have some of these that you could print like this, that has a place where you can actually put it right up in here and take advantage of the extrusion, and you could hang them right underneath there like that. That's also another option. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet so far. I'm thinking this option here is pretty good. It's not a bad option. This one's pretty good. I could easily put two of them right here, slide them underneath here and here. I may do that in the future, but that's easy enough, because it's just these things will just unscrew, put a new one in. I could slide that take this loose here, just like we did for the Raspberry Pi, and slide that in here, and it could hang there. So still up in the air in that. For now, I'm going to get them hooked up, wired up, and get them working. Anyway, I'm going to put you off to the side here. You're going to watch me do a little time lapse, and I'm going to get this part of it buttoned up. And when I get this buttoned up, I can flip it back down and finish my wiring up top. And then the last thing I'll have to do once that piece behind me over here, let me show you that. This is the other bottom cover that I'm printing here. This is the one I just purchased off my son, and it's going to town on this print. This is like a 21-hour print to get this done. But I'll have that one to go on the bottom over here. So there's another project I got going right there on the previous video that came out. It's a headphone stand that I'm printing, so I can hang those things up on my desk and keep them from just laying around. This was a failure that I had here. It actually lifted up off the table. So far this one's doing really good as far as staying on the table. Anyway, back to the show. So let's get you back on the stand, and let's see if I can get this part of it buttoned up. And I might get you back down here while I'm doing some soldering, and show you how I'm doing that as well. Alrighty, let me catch you up to where I'm at. So I ran the wires. I left the existing wires coming up through here. I used the connectors that came with the Noctua fans that turned it into a 2-wire, red-black, positive, negative here. So we've got these all hooked up, plugged in. I used these little crimps that came with the Noctua fans. Those actually, they're a splice connector. Now I'm not big on splice connectors, but these are interesting because they have some kind of juice inside, like a sealant that comes out. I don't know if it's some kind of like dielectric grease or something, but they're pretty slick. And being this is indoor use, never going to see the weather, these will probably last a long, long time. So that's why I went ahead and used them, because you guys know I'm a big proponent of solder. But yeah, we've got the fans all on here now. On our new Pet Fang. This is my design piece here that I had to hold it on, so now I'm holding it on with 3 screws instead of just the one didn't line up for the Ender 3 V2. So we've got that hooked up, and I've got things re-zip tied back onto the Bowden tube for some wire management. So the top end is all done, and the bottom end is all done. Let's take a look at that bottom end. Okay, now the bottom side looks like this. I've got my little butt converters here inside my little cases that I made. Now you guys might think this might be a little weird, but you know, hot glue, I just put 2 stripes of hot glue on the bottom side and stuck these in place. So it's easily serviceable if I wanted to ever remove them. But I also used it, don't be afraid to use a little hot glue for a little bit of wire management. I just glued those wires right there. Now everything's glued down. It's not going to hang down and do anything funky, but that I'm not unhappy with that. We've got our fan under here all hooked up. I haven't seen it run yet because we're not ready for prime time. So as soon as my other print gets done, we'll put it on here, and I'll use these same. I got 2 more, 3 more, 4 more of these little splicer things. I'm just going to use these to splice the wires together. Why wouldn't I? They seem to work really well. But I haven't spliced this fan in just yet because I want to make sure I get this the right orientation so that I can, there again, manage the wiring to be in a spot that won't be in the way of getting too close and pinching it. Oops, sorry, pinching up here. I want it to be in some open area as the goal. It looks like there shouldn't be a problem, but I left my wires as long as possible so far. I did cut the end off of this one because I'm not using the plug. But yeah, this one you don't need the butt converter because this is already a 12-volt wire coming out of here, a 12-volt connection. That's what the fan was, so we're putting a 12-volt back in. But that's how close we are. I am so close. Soon as this guy, whoop, let's swing over here. It's a little further along than it was before. A few hours later, we'll be able to stick this one in, and we'll be all done, and we'll be back to printing with some nice quiet fans. I'll return when this is done and when we install the last little bit. Okay, here it is, pretty much all buttoned up. We got the other piece printed finally. That came off, turned out pretty good. This is, I think, designed to have a 90 by 10. I'll have to go back and look, but I think it's supposed to be a 92 by 10 fan. And I bought a 92 by 20, which is twice as thick. So I actually just ended up putting it on the outside. I think that'll work just fine. It's nutty, but it's going to move way more air than the 90-10 did for the same RPM, just because there's more blade there. And we got the 80 by 20 up here. And then my little butt converters right there. We're ready to hook it all back up. I'm going to put the feet back on the other side here, and like I've got up here, and let's upright it and see what it looks like. Now in here, the only thing I did different in here, I didn't do anything different. I just spliced the 2 wires together that are in here. That's all I had to do because it was a 12-volt fan that was already there, and I just hooked it up to another 12-volt. So it should do the same job. Shouldn't be a problem. But from the bottom, looks kind of sharp. Looks space age. Let's flip it over. We're about ready to try this thing out. Okay, the moment of truth. Gonna fire it up. That's running. Alrighty, we made some adjustments there. Everything seems to be working fine. I did a preheat PLA. Both fans have kicked on. Can barely hear them. Barely hear them. So quiet. We're going to go ahead and preheat it. Then we're going to home it. And check the bed for level. And we'll get a print going. Well, it all seems to be working just fine. We got the base layer. It's got a brim going down now. Once that brim is done and it starts to print, you'll see this fan kick back on, doing what it should. Not to mention, it looks freaking fancy, don't it? Silky copper with that tan. I'm too fancy for my printer. Too fancy for my printer. What about this printer? Doing exactly like it should. Also, the bottom fan kicked on too. You can't hear it. I can see the buck converter under here light up. So I went down underneath and looked, and sure enough the fan kicked on. Doing exactly what fans should do. Well, there you have it, folks. It's all back together. It's up and functional and running again. Now, I'm getting ready to print some ABS, and currently, I don't know if you can hear it because it is pretty quiet. Currently, this fan is running, and the PSU fan is running underneath. One of the two fans underneath is running. It's very quiet. Nothing else going on in the house right now except for my dog barking outside occasionally, but that's pretty quiet. That is really quiet. I mean, I could sleep right next to this and it wouldn't keep me awake. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I'm now diving into some ABS plastics. I've been doing a lot of PLA. I probably printed a total of 3 full spools of PLA so far between the 3 printers. And I'm learning a lot as we go. And that's what I encourage everybody to do is print, because you're going to find out where your failures are. I've been spaghettiing this stuff all over the place, trying to figure out the right technique to print ABS on my particular printer. Why, you ask? Because I am going to be printing some outboard motor parts out of ABS to start with, but I have found a new material that's supposed to arrive today. I've got it coming in 2 colors that is even better than ABS, has better UV protection and even stronger than ABS for these parts. So I think they'll be the perfect, and it has a lot more printing characteristics of PLA, so it's the best of both worlds, which is really awesome. So I'm excited to get that material in here and start printing off some parts and seeing how it performs and how it turns out. But that's the long and the short of the fan setup. I hope it wasn't crazy confusing. I know I've sped through a lot of stuff, but basically black's negative, red's positive on the wiring, and go from there. Positive in for the 24 volt in your buck converter, and 12 volts going to be coming out the other side to go to these Noctua fans because they're all 12 volt. The other thing, somebody had left a comment about these Noctua fans and said, well, you're going to notice some heat creep and stuff like that because these Noctua fans won't do what you need them to do. They do have the right CFM. The cubic feet per minute of flow is right there exactly. Even though they're lower RPM, they're higher volume for the low RPM. So they do have the capability of putting out the same amount of air as the stock 24 volt fan that spins at a higher RPM that's a lot noisier. So I want to squash that right out of the gate. I've put, oh golly, probably half a spool through this already since I've had this upgrade done, and I've had 0 issue of heat creep happening because of the fan being an issue. Now this thing's getting ready to take off while I'm talking. This is how noisy it is now. I can actually hear my furnace kicking up more than I can hear this. Now I'm going to get you right down here close. All the fans are running. This is as loud as it gets. Oh, that one just shut off. Pretty cool, huh? Well, guys, I had to take a slight break there for a bit. I'm back. What I wanted to tell you is that I do have a P.O. box. It'll be in the description below. If you want to send me some of your parts for me to try to reverse engineer, you can mail them to me to that P.O. box number. I'll keep you. Please send me your email information, your address, your phone, any kind of contact information I need to get a hold of you in case I have any questions about it. And I'll do my best to reverse engineer, and I'll work with you on what it takes to get it done. And let's work from there. This is going to be a new venture to try to do this. I'm confident I can redraw just about anything that you got out there. The question will be, can I print it? I'm currently working with ABS, trying to get ABS to print, but I've got a better material I got coming. Hopefully it'll be here soon. It was supposed to be here today, but Amazon's having a little bit of trouble. We had some pretty severe weather a couple days ago, and I think it just backed everything up pretty bad. So be patient. Send me your information. Mail me whatever you need to mail me, and I'll see what we can work out. And we'll just develop this thing together, this 3D printing world, and we'll just develop this together and see what we can come up with. A good viable option for both of us in the end. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming. I'm going to start getting into some Fusion 360 training. I'm going to start teaching you guys how to draw in Fusion 360 if you haven't done that yet. It's a great way to design your own things to print. I've done several things myself already. It's fun. It's actually pretty easy. I'm going to take you step by step of how to the basics, and then we'll get up to, I'm not going to be able to do assemblies just yet, but I can get up to drawing just about anything we need to draw in 3D and model it in 3D to be able to export and run these printers. We'll do a few samples in the upcoming videos, so stay tuned and tell me what you think. This is Michael, and I'm out.